This might sound like an article out of the Beaver tin or something like that, but this is absolutely true, so stick with me to the end. Lack of ambition in Canada, creating a 600-pound beaver in the room, Shopify president. Great. The president of e-commerce giant Shopify Inc. wants Canada to address a problem he calls the 600-pound beaver in the room. Harvey Finkelstein says that the problem is a lack of ambition that's permeating the Canadian psyche and weighing down the country's tech sector. He sees that the lack of ambition has left Canadian companies with a reputation for being acquired, where their U.S. competitors grow more dominant by taking them over. Finkelstein instead wants Canadian companies to focus on striving for more rather than settling for being acquired. He also adds that he wants more companies to be headquartered in Canada rather than the country being treated like a branch plant for bigger organizations. And this comes out of CTV News, and I read this a while ago. I firmly agree with this. Most of the innovation hubs that we work with, they all have models for acquisition rather than growth. They all have, how do I get you investor ready? How do I get you to do X and Y? Now, there's nothing wrong with being acquired. If you're able to build a company and sell it for what you're happy with selling it for, congratulations. Like, good for you. Like, round of applause all around. Don't feel bad about. You are not the 600-pound beaver. You did it. You did exactly what you wanted to. You created something. Someone else found value in it, and you got paid. Good for you. End of story.
Well, in the context, you are the 600-pound beaver. Because he is complaining about people who do that. Whether they do it successfully or not, he's against it.
I view this is coming from Shopify's perspective of, well, why don't you keep growing and just pay us a little bit? It's like, well, because I met my goals. So like, could my company, continue manufacturing my X and Y and then expand into the States and keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing? Cool.
You're talking about this coming from Shopify because of that. It sort of ties into our third question, which is this statement fair coming from the head of one of Canada's biggest success stories? And so, like, I don't see the same angle you see. I don't see it as like him speaking on behalf of Shopify saying, "Oh, grow bigger and keep spending your money with Shopify." I see it as him going like, "I built a company. I'm continuing to control that company. We're not looking for a buyout. We're looking to rule the space. They're doing a really good job succeeding that. But like, is that just survivorship bias?"
I don't know. There's a lot, like, I love Shopify. We work with it all the time. So like, I'm going to be a little bit critical here. There's a reason why this platform is in US dollars, even though they're a Canadian-based company. If you were to go on their site,
that's a really fun point.
It's like why do I see US-based pricing the minute I hit this site as a Canadian business? Because you yourself are catering to where your audience is coming from, and there's a 50 times bigger market, 100 miles in that direction. Like, why are you not doing it? Yeah. So like, if it was more, and I could come up with more, but like, if I saw it like genuinely through this, I would think less of it. We're very close to this. We're very, very close to this being a few things. The Canadian Digital Adoption Program was eye-opening. There are studies after studies proving that Canadian productivity is not accelerating as fast as US based productivity. Technology adoption for Canadians is slower than their equivalent US companies. So like, he does nail this. Like, there is a 600-pound beaver in the room when you're trying to compare apples to apples between US market and Canadian market. There absolutely is. It's a little bit rich in sometimes,
but I don't know if that's fair, because you're talking about like our quickness to adopt technology and conflating that to like his argument. His argument's not about adoption. His argument is whether you're building to sell
or building
for like.
I think it's the psyche around. I think it's just the psyche around like what the culture is in Canada. So like, whether it's technology adoption or growing and being scary, like there's just less. I think Canadians are a lot of less risk takers than their U.S. counterparts.
I just don't think this is a Canadian issue.
Oh, you're saying it's just not a Canadian? Okay, maybe.
So the question number 2: are companies being unambitious by aiming for buyouts? Is this issue limited to Canadian companies? Is it limited to the tech sector? What is the number one book we get recommended anytime we talk to someone about our business strategy?
Built to Sell.
Built to Sell. No matter who we talk to, that seems to be the one people keep coming back to.
Built to Sell.
Canadians, Americans, everyone recommends it.
Yep.
When we worked with a larger marketing agency consultancy helping us scale, they said that the U.S.
Built to sell.
Built to sell.
Built to sell.
Like their entire model was building around a niche, building your company to a point where you can sell, and then moving on to the next thing. Like this is the current wisdom around how to build a business. So I don't see it as a Canadian issue.
I don't see it as a Canadian issue. Sorry, yeah, I never, it's a good question. I was not focusing on it as a Canadian issue. Now, maybe we have to get out of our own social circle. We got some big social circles. Like, I would say it's a very broad, it's not like we're, like what you said about the book, that's not just coming from one person. That's there's like a lot of data points. Yeah, a bunch. So
not enough to have studies have shown. Like
Built to Sell. It's on the shelf back right there. Like there's Lean Startup, Built to Sell. Like it's there. It's literally 2 feet behind me. So there and there's great advice in that book. Productize, fine.
Well, and building a company to sell is a really smart thing to do. If you're building a company with no idea what your long-term vision is, you're gonna have problems.
You're gonna have some problems.
So you should be building to sell, or you should be building to generate generational wealth.
Yeah.
But you should know which one you're doing, and you should have a plan to
focus
do whichever
on that
thing it is.
I think this does come from some sentiment going he's kind of coming at this pro Canada, like do it, guys. You can. We see it. They get all the back end data there going you can absolutely strive for bigger things, be more ambitious. You can do that. So these might be words of wisdom saying hey, I would love for Shopify to come out with an accelerator to compete with all the other accelerators and say well, once you hit this specific thing, we're gonna, instead of when you hit this milestone, instead of the sell option, why doesn't Shopify offer you a thing where it's obviously
it doesn't even have to be Shopify specifically, but Finkelstein, put your money where your mouth is. Start an accelerator.
I would love a Y Combinator right in Ottawa.
But I would love to see him build an accelerator, like you say, specifically built around companies
getting to the next zero.
Not built to sell.
Yeah.
Right? If his niche was an accelerator for companies that want to generate and maintain wealth, I think that would be brilliant.
I might have to do some research after this. I don't think there's a single accelerator in Canada that focuses on that, period. It's all about all the ones that I've seen, and I'll name them out. I could name them out easy. They are always about fundraising and getting to an acquisition. There's not a single one. It's either go to market, it's the early stage startups, or go to market, pre-revenue stuff, and then as soon as they've got that, it's how do you get acquired? Because that's how they get paid.
Yeah.
It's okay, great, we're gonna match you some banks and some lenders and some VCs and yada yada yada. It's there's nobody there focusing on businesses to not do that. It's interesting. It's the only person that gets paid in that scenario is actually the business owner and their employees, and great, you're just gonna continue building it rather than letting a VC come in and give you some money and then get acquired. But I don't think there's a single accelerator that is focusing on that. So Finkelstein, what's up, man? Let's do it. Give me.
Well, it's
let's see. Yeah, you could.
He's survivorship bias. Well, if you think it's repeatable, I would love to see.
Or I would love even Finkelstein to go a step further, saying instead of that book, instead of Built to Sell, read these 5 other ones.
Yeah. Well, so this brings me to my number one discussion topic of this article. Why is this news?
Well, it's coming out of the Shopify president, so it's still one of Canada's biggest, biggest and most successful, in terms of companies coming out of Canada, they've all time, this has got to be in the top 5. BlackBerry, Shopify, and Nortel came and went. Company, but it's a big company.
This was from a speech he gave at a tech conference. He was on stage with a breakdancer. This is...
Yeah. Why is it news? I mean, he's trying. I think he's trying to get a message out there to say believe in yourself, or maybe he's trying to advocate for others, saying okay, there's a. I like hearing, and CEOs are typically very good at this. They are problem solvers. They have to present themselves. As here's the challenge that we're facing. Here's how we're actually overcoming it. Mm-hmm. He laid out a problem. But I didn't hear him come out with here are the things that you should do to overcome that problem. Here's what we're doing. Here's how we're supporting. He just kind of laid it out, saying there's an elephant in the room, a beaver, Canadian beaver. I do like that.
To be fair, we are responding to the press coverage of his speech.
Yep.
I have not read the full transcript. I have not watched the speech.
I watched it way back when. I didn't read it, but I watched it. And this is back when there was productivity things going on with U.S. productivity versus Canadian productivity. This came after the news that the Canadian Digital Adoption Program was closing down. This came down after a few things, and like this is still a problem where, you know, he's seeing it. Obviously, he's seeing it with a lot more information than we have, because like the data that Shopify collects is just enormous. So like I think he's trying to bring up a problem. Maybe he's trying to say like, hey, there's an opportunity here for helping these people, or believe in yourself, or there is survivorship bias with a lot of success, because it's like people always ask, well, what did you do to become successful? It's like, well now they focus on their health, and now they're focused on managing. It's like before, when they were like in the garage startup working 16 hours a day for 3 years straight, there was no anything there. So there's a lot of people that when they get the option to say, okay, here's what my actual hard work is worth, there's a lot of people that just take it. There's a lot of people that are happy with that number, like, holy moly, that's more money than I've ever seen in my whole world, like yada yada yada. This is true of Shopify. The founder gave it over to a CEO to say, I'm going to step out, I'm going to IPO it, I'm going to get paid, we're going to keep it in Canada, great. It's publicly owned now, so like there's a lot of it is owned by it's like it's not owned, it's operated out of Canada. But yeah, the owner had to step aside, and they brought in like a formal CEO, and that's hard for people, and that's so. I do believe that 600-pound beaver exists. We've seen it ourselves. People that's what we're taught. I think there's an educational component to this. Like that's just what people are taught to do.
So when you say the 600-pound beaver exists, do you mean as a Canadian thing, or just like...
I don't know. Like, yeah.
Like, I just... Like,
that's the hard bit. Like, I don't know if it's... I don't know if it's a Canadian thing. I just know it's a thing.
Okay.
That, like, there is a lot of money in the States to acquire businesses. There are entire business strategies where they're just going out and buying film studios, buying productions. You can see this across the board, whether it's an Amazon gobbling up, Disney gobbling up stuff, has like every big company, they have an acquisitions department that is just going out there, and that's part of their growth strategy. So it's going to happen, and what they put money at, they're typically pretty good at. So great. And I think there might be, like, if you're sitting in a room with someone saying, we're going to pay you this, or we're going to start developing ourselves and go to war with you. It's like, I don't want to go to war with the big guy, because like there's a chance I lose, and like I've put a lot of money into this. So it's like, am I forced to sell? But back to what you said, going like, is this a Canadian thing? I couldn't say. Is it happening in the UK? Is it happening in France? Is it the same thing? I don't know.
I just don't like saying the beaver in the room is real when it's not. If it's not a Canadian issue, then it's not a Canadian.
I think he was talking to a Canadian audience, so like I think he was trying to make it more like suitable for the actual audience that he was talking in front of. But
it says right in the article, he says lack of ambition has left Canadian companies with a reputation for being acquired.
I fundamentally disagree with that. I think Canadian people are very ambitious. I think there is a ton of people that take the risk at starting small businesses. I definitely don't think it's an ambition thing. I definitely think it's more confidence than ambition. When you get to a certain skill set, you are in deep water. You never thought you'd get here. You're making money. Now you're talking to it can be stressful. It's not for the lack of ambition that Canadian companies are not taking it to the next level. They are maybe not confident to take it to the next level, but like they've already done the hardest bit of the work.
Ambition might be the right word, because building a company to sell is less ambitious
than building a company
that's supposed to turn into this empire that makes you money forever.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Like that could.
I'm not disagreeing with the argument that building to sell is less ambitious than building for generational wealth. I'm just arguing that this is like the conventional wisdom we hear.
It is
all over the world, and that this is nothing to do with like Canada's not going to build a reputation for falling behind by doing the same thing everyone else is doing.
No. Like I have some of like the biggest name like Sleeman's did this.
Yeah.
There's like whether it's manufacturing, whether it's tech, whether it's like you could name this, and it's like, well, how many millions do you need before it's like that's just a good deal?
Yeah.
This is it. Like, what do you mean? Like, not every single company is going to turn out to be Google. you're going to hit a ceiling somewhere. Not every there's only like the top 10. So like you're eventually going to get acquired by someone. Or you can say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to have this a family business, and we're going to own the plumbing business forever, and it's going to be multi-generational, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Like, what do you do if the kids don't want to run the family business? Like, you can sell
it to employees. You can, try and get a competitor to buy it. You can, do a lot. You can do a lot of things.
Sell it at that point.
But typically, it's a sale. It's not like, hey, I'm going to, keep this thing going forever and ever and ever. That's a lot of businesses that are built right now, and I think that maybe it's just a little bit of a flash in the pan. There's a lot of like get rich quick, or like, oh, you're gonna want to do this because it's passive income, and it's like not a business. It's like that. Those aren't like reliable things that you should do. They're not you building your drop shipping business ain't quite the same thing as you manufacturing a product and putting a brand on it and going out and actually getting in front of your customers. You are a middleman, and there are businesses that's perfectly fine, but it's different.
A trend we've seen over and over and over again with the business we work with is a lot of the most successful and most well-to-do business owners we work with are people that inherited successful businesses from their parents and from their parents' parents. And those tend to be businesses where there is a manufacturing component, a large warehousing component, large-scale infrastructure that gets carried with it to the next generation. And it's something that the built-to-sell businesses don't tend to have, because they're built to be agile and built to be capable of being swallowed up and moved very quickly.
So it's definitely different.
Yeah.
So this is like I'm trying to read between the lines here. Plus, also remember, I watched it live. This is like a while ago now, but this is
not that long ago. This article came out at the beginning of October.
Yeah, so not that long ago. Still, I don't want to just rely on my memory when I'm doing this, but I would love to see. Obviously, Shopify has a lot of people. It is nice to say Shopify is a Canadian success story. Do we need more of them? I would love to have 50 other names.
Yeah.
That are doing that, right? And I would love that. I would love for the people that do have money in Canada to say, okay, great. I watch Dragon's Den. Yep. I love seeing Canadian investment in companies, and great, and scale them up. I'd love to see more of those wins happening. Really hard to do. Yeah. Really, really, really hard to do. And again, it's a difficult choice for a CEO or a founder to walk away from money when it's right there. That's crazy. That can be seen as great. Why wouldn't you just do that? That you're set for life kind of thing. It's like, well, I had to have that goal from day one and not sell. Yeah. To tell them where to go to build it out. So I would love to go back and read, because obviously this would have happened to Shopify as well when they were developing their product. They were probably approached for acquisition more than once. And how did those discussions go during their development and their growth, and how they navigated those?
Shopify is the best e-commerce platform, bar none. In my opinion, it is phenomenal. If I could put all of our clients on Shopify, I would, even the ones that don't sell a product. Yeah. Because it is such a fantastic platform to work with when building websites. It's phenomenal, and I can't confidently say that the platform would be in the positive place that it is today if they had taken a buyout early in their development and become a branch of, who knows,
Amazon. like anyone else. The Amazon could have about to shut it down.
Well, any given tech conglomerate that starts as a CRM and adds work management.
Salesforce buys it.
Employee scheduling and tax on the next technology.
Oracle buys it.
And they don't speak to each other well. We see so many of these groups of Frankenstein's monster of technology solutions. It's really nice when you've got something that's built piece of technology,
and we've seen this. We've been to Shopify's offices, their employees. We've seen the inner workings of it. It's incredible. And I would love to have more Canadian success stories. I don't think there's a single Canadian that would disagree with that. He's trying to say but it's rich coming from the guy at the top. Yeah, it is. It's like holy geez, celebrate the wins, but also there's a building up component that I think Canadians like should be better at striving for, like believing in your neighbor and things like that, and supporting the business down the street. So
I think that's where this article rubs me the wrong way. It feels like there's an element of condescension to it, and like it's like it's punching down a little, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then it's not substantive enough to feel like it should have been picked up.
That's where I'm trying to like defend it, but at the same time I get the same vibe. It's like
well, we want to defend it because we love Shopify.
I know, and like I do want businesses to succeed. So like I just think it was maybe the wrong words or.
Well, so I think you hit the nail on the head when you said this. Like, what are the 5 books we should read?
What?
To follow up on this.
So you say this, and then here's the solution. The CEO has got to present like some options for that, and I don't. Again, testing memory. I don't think that was available. I don't think there was any follow up to saying like, when he says lack of ambition, he's got to come up with like. Here's how you become more ambitious. Here's what you should be doing. Here's what you should be striving for. Here's what you should want. And here's why. Like, great. Layout problem, 15 solutions. We love it. And then you can take this article and it doesn't feel like it's punching down.
Yeah.
It feels like it's a resource now. Believe in yourself. Here's how to do it. Cool. But so there's like some good takeaways here. Like, I would love to have those books. I would love to see if those even exist. Building the next,
Yeah.
There's a lot of buildings out there that took 100 years to build, and they're still around. So, cool. Anything else on that?
No, man. I think we've covered all the broad points. Interesting statement to have a conversation around.
Yeah.
Love everything Shopify is doing.
Hands down.